Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, then welcome. My name's Christina, and on my channel we talk all things beauty from my own experiences. So before you go, make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave any comments that you have for me down below. Today we are going to be talking about the brand new Laura Mercier Foundation. It's this guy right here. It's the Laura Mercier Real Flawless Weightless Perfecting Foundation. I have this in the shade 3N2 Camel. I'm going to be talking about all the specs on this. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a demo of me applying this to my face and also talk about my experience with it because I have worn it a couple of times now. I wanted to be sure that I had some thoughts on it and I could share with you guys my experiences. So without further ado, let's get started. So this new foundation from Laura Mercier is $48. I purchased mine at Sephora in Kohl's, but you can also purchase it at regular Sephora stores, Sephora online, and Laura Mercier's website. There are 30 shades of this formulation, and let me see what the bullet points are on these. This is a weightless foundation that blurs the line between makeup and skin with medium buildable coverage. It's waterproof wear and up to 12 hours of fade proof wear. The coverage again is medium, finish is natural, and it says it has high resolution pigments and 3D smoothing priming powders, perfecting cake-free coverage and optimal color laydown with less product. It also says it has blurring bamboo silk powders and hydrolipid matrix, which is supposed to balance moisture and shine control. Some key ingredients are camellia seed, vitamin E, and cacao extract. So I wanted to pull some Laura Mercier products so that we could use it in conjunction, but I also kind of tested this out with other primers and other powders, so I want to talk about that. But for the sake of this video, I'm also going to be using a Laura Mercier primer, the Laura Mercier powder, as well as the foundation. So let's get started with the demo. If you guys are new here, I do have combination skin. It's normal / oily. I am a little bit acne prone, and my problem areas are going to be a little bit of pores here. I have a lot of hyperpigmentation and discoloration, and just overall aging. I want to do preventative care for that type of stuff. So that is kind of where I sit on the spectrum of skin type. I was debating between this shade and 3N1, which is the shade Buff. They are both neutral undertones, but Buff just seemed a little bit darker, which was interesting. I thought it was going to be lighter, but this one matched my neck and my face better, whereas 3N Buff looked like it matched my face, but not necessarily my neck. My face is a little bit lighter than the rest of my body because I do wear sunscreen daily, but I wanted something that would blend everything seamlessly. So here's the shade Swatch on my hand. It does look a little lighter whenever it's like really up close to the camera, but actually matches my skin tone really well. As you can kind of tell from this, it's a very runny formulation. It kind of just runs down the hand, and whenever you go to blend it out, it seriously feels so thin on the back of the hand. It truly, to me, feels kind of like a serum foundation. And if you've never felt that, literally it feels like if you were to take a serum skincare product and mix it with your foundation to where it's very thinned out, feels exactly like that. I was a little worried as well whenever I swatched this on my hand and also on my face at the stores because it almost feels oily as well as like serum-y. I do tend to get oily throughout the day. So whenever I first tried it out, I did use this primer, which we're using today. So let me go ahead and apply this one. I'm going to do this all over the face, and I like this primer just for hydrating the face. I feel like it kind of acts like a moisturizer. Because of that more oily, thinner consistency, I was a little worried that it would break up on my face as I wore it throughout the day. So I actually ended up using the Milk Hydro Grip primer underneath the foundation just to make sure it really stuck under, like it didn't move or anything at all. And it works really well with this. I had no complaints with this primer. And I also used the foundation without this primer to make sure that it still had good hold, and it does. So that primer is nice and dry on the face. So I'm going to take probably 2 pumps of this, and then I'm going to rub it and pat it into my skin. And I put this all over, but you can also just focus this on areas where your foundation tends to break up throughout the day. So for instance, sometimes I will just put this on my T-zone. I do have some breakup of product on specifically the left side of my face where contour and bronzer usually go, which is very odd, I know. So sometimes I'll just focus gripping primers in those areas. So I'm just going to blend that until it gets rather tacky. Let it dry down a bit before we go in to underpainting. To underpaint today, I'm going to be using this new Milk Contour Stick in the shade Stoked. I really love this neutral, cool undertone. I feel like it's perfect for contour, specifically contour. I don't think I would use this as a bronzer at all. I really love this cool toned sculpting stick. I feel like it definitely gives you that shadow-like effect on the face, which is perfect, especially when I'm underpainting. And I'm just taking this e.l.f. putty applicator, and I like how small the brush is, so it's really easy to concentrate the color exactly where you want. Taking this Rare Beauty concealer brush, and I'm just going to use this to blend out the contour on the nose. This stick does look really small. It's 0.19 ounces, but I was looking at other like contour cream products, and that seems about, I think that's about average. Like I compared it to the Tower 28 Sculptino, and this one is around the same. It's 0.16 ounces. So there's actually a little bit more in this one than there is in that one. Okay, I want to go in with my e.l.f. Hydro Camo Concealer. This is in the shade Medium Sand, and I'm just going to go ahead and conceal. Okay, so that is all the underpainting I want to do. I'm going to do my blush after the foundation. So let's go ahead and go in with the foundation. So it's a very, very liquidy foundation, like I said. So you want to make sure that you shake her up. Today I'm using this Morphe and Ariel A58 brush. This one is nice and fluffy, but it does have a little bit of like a flatter shape to it. So it's easier to control in my opinion. So I'm going to take about 2 pumps to begin with. And to start, I want to kind of start at the center of the face and work my way out. So I'm just going to put some on the back of my hand, grab the foundation here, and then we're just going to start right around the nose and then work our way out. Oh, she's shutting. This was not happening earlier. And as you can kind of see, that foundation really blended out all over the face. Those 2 pumps were enough to cover my entire face. And I feel like the texture and how thin this foundation is really allows it to blend out onto the skin. So you literally get the thinnest layer of foundation on the skin. Oh my god, this brush is shedding like crazy. I don't know why my brush is shedding so badly. It wasn't doing this the other day. The only thing, so before I started filming, I used my Cinema Secrets brush cleaner, and I really hope it didn't mess up these brushes. Okay, just to tap it out, I'm using another Morphe brush here. This is the E63 one. But let's go ahead and look at the skin. Do you guys see how this like basically looks like skin itself? Like it doesn't stick to any pores, to any dry patches. It's not sitting funny on those primers. I could definitely use a little bit more coverage around the tops of my cheekbones where I do have that freckling. So I'm just going to take a little bit more of that foundation here, and I'm going to build up that coverage on the tops of my cheekbones just a bit. So I'm going to let it sit there and dry down a little bit before I go in and completely blend it out. I would suggest with this foundation to use a brush because I feel like a sponge would definitely soak up the majority of the product since it is very, very thin. I don't think that it gives you medium coverage right away, like with one layer. I definitely think go in with a layer, let it dry down a little bit, and then spot fix any areas that you think you need a little bit more coverage in. It even looks good under the under eyes. It doesn't look like it's accentuating any of my fine lines under my eyes. It's not sticking to any like texture under my eyes. All right, so this is what the face is looking like. I really like the finish of this foundation. It definitely looks a little bit more dewy than like a natural finish. I would say I think it adds a little bit of oil to the skin. So you definitely want to set this down if you do tend to get oily throughout the day. All right, so this is what we're working with. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of my face, and I'll be back so we can talk a little bit about my final thoughts on this foundation. Alright guys, I am back, and here is the final face of makeup. I'll put down below everything that I use just because I noticed that a lot of people are asking a lot of questions about what's on my face, so I'll put that in the description box down below for you. So let's look at the foundation. So this is what the face is looking like after everything is done. I went ahead and powdered the whole face. I also focused on the T-zone just to make sure that I didn't get super oily in those areas. I do want to say that the tip of my nose is looking a little bit like it's clinging, like my concealer and my foundation. And I realized that I put the Milk Hydro Grip primer on my nose, and I never do that. I guess I just got distracted talking and I ended up putting it on my nose. When I said that I put it on my T-zone, I mainly meant like on my forehead area and around my nose, like where I'm more porous, just around there, and then down my chin. And I don't typically put it straight down my nose, so I guess I got distracted and I did that. So I think that's why it's clinging, because the other times that I've worn this foundation, it's never clung to my nose this way. So we're just going to ignore that. Usually this foundation has looked really nice and seamless on the top of my nose, which was one of the points that I wanted to make, because I feel like the serum-y, oily texture of this foundation really helps melt it into my skin and help it to not cling to any like spots on the face. I really like the texture of this foundation. Like I said, it is super thin and it almost feels like an oily serum-y consistency, which is definitely kind of nerve-wracking, especially with someone that has more oily skin. But I can say that this foundation actually wears really nicely throughout the day. Once you set this down on the face with powder and it just like absorbs into the skin, it looks beautiful, such a natural finish. I will say that it does add just a touch of hydration even if you powder, but I think that's kind of what makes it look so skin-like. I truly love the way that this looks. It doesn't even look like foundation on the skin. You can definitely tell that I have makeup on because of the powder. You can tell that it's a little bit more mattified in some areas and it looks a little bit more blurred. However, with just this foundation on, it truly just looks like really healthy skin. I think this color match is really nice for me right now. I definitely think it's going to be too light for me in the summertime because it matches me so well currently, so I'm definitely gonna have to go up a shade or two. I love how effortless this foundation feels. It doesn't feel like you have to fuss with it at all, and it seems like the type of foundation that you can use with a variety of different primers, or you can wear it without a primer if you're not the primer type of person. I really love the way that this foundation kind of glides over the skin as you're blending it out. I feel like you can really thin it out and still get really nice coverage, and I do think that this is one of those buildable foundations that are actually buildable. It doesn't look cakey and it doesn't start looking too oily or too makeup-like on the skin. You really can do one thin layer, like I said, and let that dry down just a bit, and then add a little bit more foundation anywhere you feel like you need it. I did do a little bit of extra foundation on the tops of my cheeks, and I felt like it really made a difference. It does feel like a very weightless foundation. It doesn't feel very, very heavy, very thick like some, I guess, like creamier foundations can feel. Some mattifying foundations can definitely feel a little bit more like you're wearing foundation. This almost feels like you're putting skincare on the skin. I will say, compared to other foundations, this one does definitely veer towards weightless on the skin. Overall, I think this foundation is just absolutely beautiful. I think that their shade range is really great as well. My favorite things about this are, one, it wears really beautifully throughout the day and it holds the integrity of my makeup throughout the day as well. As long as I set it with powder and I set it with setting spray. The times that I've worn this, I think that I've worn it for, the first time I think I wore it for about 6 to 8 hours, and then the second time I wore it definitely was closer to like 10-11 hour mark, and both times I felt like my makeup still looked really beautiful. It looked even more skin-like as the day went on, because with every foundation my oils do tend to come through a little bit, but I feel like the foundation still held its integrity. It didn't break up, it didn't start smearing anywhere. As far as the waterproof claim goes, I haven't tested that out. I will leave it in the description box down below if I do end up like going out in the rain. It is raining today, so maybe I'll like test that out today. I didn't notice a lot of transfer. I will say that I don't think it's transfer proof, but I did notice some transfer. I did blot my face on a paper towel and it was slightly colored. I didn't try this transfer test with just the foundation on, but with the powder, with like all my bronzers and stuff like that, you can't really see too much transfer. I just applied it, so I feel like that was kind of expected. But the other day I did remember that I wanted to test out the transfer claim, so I took a paper towel and I blotted it. I would say this was about 4 hours in to wearing the foundation, and I did have a slight transfer of the foundation, but it definitely wasn't like my entire face of foundation went onto the paper towel, you know? You could kind of see it, but typically when I'm wearing a face of makeup, I don't tend to like rub my face on anything. I don't really lay on anything like pillows or I don't know, any fabric. I usually don't put my face on, so I can't say for sure. But for the most part, I would say that this is pretty transfer proof, as long as you're not like rubbing your face on your couch or pillow or anything like that, you know? $48 is pretty pricey. However, for me, I can justify it. I love this type of coverage. I love the way that this feels. I like the shade match a lot. So for me, I think that it's definitely worth it. I'm trying to think of a foundation that I would compare this to as far as the same characteristics, and I'm coming up with a blank. Oh, you know what this kind of feels like? So I would say the texture of this almost feels like the Ilia skin tint, but not as serum-y. So it definitely holds a little better. You can tell it has a little bit more thickness and structure to it, but the way that it glides onto the skin feels like the Ilia skin tint, but much more coverage than that. And it's definitely not as greasy. So as far as the viscosity of this foundation, I would compare it to the Ilia skin tint. That's how serum-y it feels, but it definitely has way more coverage, more pigmentation, and it lasts a lot longer on my skin than the Ilia one does. Do you absolutely need it in your collection though? Probably not if you already have a medium coverage foundation that you really enjoy. If you have something like the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation, kind of the same. It feels kind of the same to me in the way that it looks as a finished product on the skin. Like it has that same perfected look and that healthy skin look, but this one does feel a little bit lighter on the skin. So that is my entire review on this foundation, guys. Let me know if you picked up this foundation or if you plan to. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I also hope that you found it enjoyable. If you did, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!